When I was 18, I was secretly dating Adrien Herbert. He never dared tell a soul just because we were two men. But in public, he went through one girlfriend after another. When I asked him about it, he'd always say he had to keep up appearances for his family and tell me not to make a scene. Then, on our second anniversary, I suddenly heard that Adrien was getting engaged. I didn't have the courage to confront him. I just secretly fled the country. 5 years later, my sister Melissa, who had always been the kindest to me, was getting married. She begged me to come back for her wedding. I agreed, but on my third day back in the country, I ran into Adrien. After 5 years, Adrien Herbert hadn't changed a bit. He still had that same cocky attitude, like he owned the world and didn't give a damn about anyone in it. Then again, a guy like Adrien could afford to be that way. The Herbert family's influence stretched across all of Boston. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have had to run away all those years ago. Adrien's eyes roamed over me, devouring every inch of my body. It was disgusting. Johnny, I've missed you so much these last 5 years. Adrien's fingers gently brushed against my lips. The next second, he was leaning in. Just before his lips touched mine, I shoved him away hard. Adrien didn't seem to expect me to resist. A flash of fury lit up in his eyes. But before he could do anything, a woman walked in. Adrien, what's wrong? Adrien straightened his collar, his expression softening instantly. It's nothing. Just ran into an old acquaintance. She glanced at me but didn't ask any more questions. Well, hurry up. The party is about to start. Adrien smiled at her. Okay, you go on ahead. I'll be right there. Don't drink too much. Isabel nodded and turned to leave. I looked at Adrien with a smirk. His tone was a world away from how he'd just been with me. Is that your fiancé? Adrien turned back to me. Johnny, don't even think about it. I scoffed, my disgust for him on full display. And what if I do? Adrien watched me silently. You can try. But then we'll see what happens to Melissa. He didn't finish his sentence, but I knew exactly what he meant. Adrien was threatening me with my sister. He really hadn't changed at all. Still as despicable and shameless as ever. You should really think about my offer, Johnny. Be my secret lover and the White family, and your sister will get a very handsome payout. After saying his piece, Adrien walked away without a second glance. I should have known from the moment I got together with Adrien. He wasn't someone you could cross. After we started dating, he never let me make our relationship public. I used to think it was because he was afraid people would say I wasn't good enough for him. But the day Isabel agreed to be with him, Adrien told the entire world. I was the only one left in the dark. It wasn't until I went to bring him lunch one day that I overheard him talking to his friends. You're really not going to tell him? What, you planning on keeping him locked away, Adrien? Adrien slowly blew a ring of smoke. Him? He's not even worthy of being my dirty little secret. I've waited for Isabel for so many years. Johnny White is just a little toy to pass the time when I'm bored. Someone next to him chimed in, what if Isabel finds out? Adrien said, she won't. And even if she did, what's the big deal about getting rid of some cast-off the White family doesn't even care about? The guys around him burst out laughing. Hey Adrien, when you get tired of him, let us brothers have a taste. Huh? Adrien flicked the ash from his cigarette. Sure. The day I'm done playing, I'll deliver him to your bed myself. Listening from outside the door, my face went pale. I left the lunchbox at the front desk and walked away without a moment's hesitation. That night, I went home, packed my things, and fled the country. I didn't doubt for a second that Adrien meant what he said. From what I knew of him, he was more than capable of it. After leaving the country, I moved between several cities to hide from him. I didn't dare use my credit cards, terrified the Herbert family would find me. If it weren't for my sister's wedding, I never would have come back. Adrien gave me 3 days. He wanted a definitive answer within 3 days. But I knew I didn't really have a choice. In Adrien's eyes, the White family didn't care about me. When he wanted something, he always got it. Especially a cast-off like me. But Adrien didn't know something. I wasn't the same person I was 5 years ago. He hadn't noticed that now, when he spoke to me, I actually talked back. Maybe it was because that other person had spoiled me rotten over the last 5 years. I had developed a backbone of my own. I had transformed from the meek, timid Johnny into someone who wasn't afraid of anything. I didn't take Adrien's threats to heart. But I'd also forgotten one crucial thing. I was in Boston now, not LA. On the third day after my sister's wedding, we were at the breakfast table. Melissa's eyes were red, and she kept looking at me, wanting to say something but holding back. "What's wrong, Melissa? Are you not feeling well?" My sister looked at me, seemingly steeling herself for what she was about to say. Brad, her husband, was impatient. He sighed when she wouldn't speak. "Johnny, don't blame your brother-in-law. The Herbert family has been targeting our company for the past 2 days. They said, if you're willing to step in, they'll stop." I frowned and turned to my sister. She had a pained expression on her face. "Johnny, Adrien said that if you're willing to see him, just see him once, that's all it will take. Please, I'm begging you." My heart sank. So it was true. Even my sister didn't care about me anymore. Before I left the country, I told her everything about Adrien and me. She knew. She knew everything. She knew that if I went to see Adrien, I'd be walking into my own ruin. And yet, she still asked. I turned my head, unable to look at either of them. "Don't worry. I'll go see him. I won't make things difficult for you." Hearing me say that, my sister visibly relaxed. Then, as if remembering I was still there, she said, "Johnny, I'm so sorry." Brad took her hand. "Johnny, if you're gonna blame someone, blame me. Your sister had no choice." I fought back tears and went upstairs. Just like when I left Adrien 5 years ago, I packed my few belongings and left Brad's house. My sister came to see me off. She was crying, repeating "I'm sorry" over and over. I wanted to tell her it was okay, but the words wouldn't come out. After leaving their house, I dragged my suitcase and wandered aimlessly down the street. Ding. I pulled out my phone and saw a message from Adrien. "Have you made up your mind, Johnny? The Lee family can't hold out for much longer." A tear dripped onto the screen. Anger overwhelmed my sadness. But I quickly calmed myself down. I had no money and no connections in Boston. The White family had given up on me long ago. And now my only sister was pushing me away. A wave of despair washed over me. Forgetting the fight I'd had with Ethan, I pouted and tapped the only other number in my phone. The call connected almost instantly. A clear voice came through the phone. "What's wrong? You run away from home and you still know how to call me." I sniffled, my voice thick with tears. "Ethan, I miss you." Hearing me cry, Ethan panicked. He completely forgot about the fight we'd had because I broke my 9 p.m. curfew. "What's wrong? Sweetheart? Did someone bully you? Don't cry. Where are you? I'll book a flight right now." I had just been abandoned by my only family. Ethan's concerned words unlocked an even deeper well of sorrow inside me. I was sobbing so hard I couldn't get a full sentence out. Ethan was pacing on the other end, frantic. "Ethan, why aren't you here yet? Someone bullied me. I have nowhere to stay. I'm going to end up sleeping on the street and becoming a beggar." Ethan kept comforting me on the phone. Took me half an hour of crying before I could finally explain what had happened. After he heard the whole story, Ethan suddenly went silent. "Hello? Ethan, are you still there?" Ethan grunted, then quickly rushed to reassure me. "Sweetheart, don't worry. I've already arranged for someone to find you. I'll be there by tomorrow night, no, tomorrow morning. Go to a hotel and wait for me." I nodded, then remembered he couldn't see me. "Okay, please hurry." I was exhausted by the time I got to the hotel. The moment I saw the bed, I collapsed and fell asleep. When I woke up, my phone was flooded with messages. Some were from Ethan, asking if I'd eaten, telling me to rest and that we'd talk about everything when he arrived. And then there was Adrien. His messages were nothing but threats. Using my sister to threaten me. Using Brad's company to threaten me. He even brought up the White family. Finally, there were messages from my sister. First, she was concerned, asking if I had a place to stay, asking if I'd eaten. But then she realized I hadn't gone to see Adrien. Her tone changed. She started blaming me, asking if I was trying to ruin her, asking why I even came back. But she'd forgotten that she was the one who begged me to come back in the first place. My sister and I had relied on each other since we were children. Even though we were born into a wealthy family, there were too many white children. We weren't favored and were always bullied. Back then, my sister always protected me. But now, was she still my sister? I was trapped in a spiral of self-blame. I wanted to cry, but my eyes just ached. Suddenly, the keypad on the door beeped. Ethan burst in and rushed over to me. A chill radiated from him. He had clearly flown through the night to get here. When Ethan saw me crying, he didn't even bother putting his luggage down. He just rushed over and pulled me into a hug. What's wrong? What happened? Who made my sweetheart so upset? Seeing Ethan, all the emotions I'd been bottling up for the past few days finally had an outlet. They erupted all at once. I pounded on Ethan's chest. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. Why did it take you so long to get here? Ethan didn't say a word. He just took all of my irrational anger. Okay, don't be mad, Johnny. It's all my fault. It's all me. I'm sorry. I buried my face in Ethan's chest and cried until I had no tears left, until I was just making dry, heaving sounds. Finally, my consciousness faded, and I fell asleep with tear stains on my cheeks. When I woke up again, Ethan was sitting by the bed, looking at my phone. Normally, I would have thrown a fit, but so much had happened in the last 2 days. I didn't have the energy to be angry. When Ethan saw I was awake, he quickly picked up the glass of water beside the bed. Sweetheart, drink some water. Does your throat hurt? A little. As soon as I spoke, I realized my voice was completely hoarse from all the crying. Ethan helped me sit up and drink some water. I shot him a guilty glance. Seeing I was okay, Ethan let out a long sigh. Where's all that fire you have when you throw tantrums at me back home? I pouted and mumbled, you know I only act tough with you. Now that Ethan was here, my heart settled, and my usual temper returned. Besides, it's all your fault. Why did you make me so angry in the first place? Ethan just smiled helplessly. What could he do? This was the man he loved. I took small sips of water, my mind racing, trying to figure out how to get Ethan to help me get even. As my eyes darted around, I spotted a gold-embossed invitation on the table. 2 large words were printed on it: the Herbert family. There were many Herbert families in Boston, but only Adrien's family used a flying bird emblem on their invitations. I shot up from the bed with a bang, pointing a finger at Ethan from above. Ethan, what is that? You. Before I could get the words out, Ethan grabbed my hand. Lie down. You'll catch a cold dressed like that. Ethan, what is that? If you don't explain yourself right now, I'm not eating. Ethan shook his head, looking resigned. The only person who could threaten someone by refusing to eat was Johnny White. But damn it if it didn't work on him every time. Ethan handed me the invitation. It's for the Herbert family's engagement party. Your sister will be there, too. I fell silent. Ethan, let's just go home. Let's leave now. Ethan stroked my hair. You don't want to get revenge? I shook my head, then nodded. I do, but I'm afraid you can't win against them. Sweetheart, my last name is Booth. I tilted my head, confused. Ethan thought I was adorable. He cupped my face and gave me a few loud kisses. At the Herbert family's party, I followed Ethan closely, not daring to leave his side. What I didn't expect was for old Mr. Herbert himself to come out to greet us. The Herbert family looked down on the Whites, so old Mr. Herbert had certainly never given a second thought to a cast-off like me. I never imagined he would personally welcome us at the door. But Ethan seemed used to it, as if it was perfectly normal. Watching old Mr. Herbert bow and scrape before Ethan, my fear suddenly vanished. Could this be what they call riding someone's coattails? No. I'm not a dog. But damn, it felt good. Once inside the ballroom, Mr. Herbert led us all the way to the main table. The deeper we went, the more familiar faces I saw. At the very center, I saw Adrien. Standing next to him were 2 people I knew even better. My sister, Melissa, and her husband, Brad. My sister didn't look pained anymore. She had a sweet smile on her face as she clinked glasses with Adrien. When the 3 of them turned and saw me, They looked slightly stunned, as if they couldn't figure out why I was here. My sister was the first to walk over. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Johnny, are you still mad at me?" I shook my head. I wasn't really mad at her anymore. "Johnny, we're still family. If you're willing to come around and stay by Adrien's side, it's better for all of us." Brad chimed in, "Johnny, Adrien won't treat you badly. Don't worry. We've already talked it over. When he doesn't need you anymore, he'll give you a sum of money to make sure you're comfortable for the rest of your life." Talked it over? Who did they talk it over with? Hearing his words, my heart started pounding with rage. Since you've talked it over with him, why don't you go be his secret lover? You might be ugly, but Adrien's never been picky. I'm sure when he doesn't need you anymore, he'll give you a sum of money to make sure you're comfortable for the rest of your life, too. Brad was furious. "You?" Melissa cut him off before he could finish. "Johnny, didn't you agree to Adrien's offer?" As she spoke, Melissa grabbed my hand. Her sharp nails dug into my flesh, and I winced in pain. Ethan shoved her away. "Miss, please let go of my partner." Melissa glanced at Ethan, then turned back to me, her eyes asking who he was. Adrien had been watching the whole scene unfold. He hadn't planned on getting involved. Adrien figured that if he just pressured Brad's family and had Melissa work on me, I'd eventually give in. He hadn't expected someone named Ethan to suddenly show up and claim to be my partner. How could Adrien tolerate that? He strode over, his face dark. He said to Ethan, "If you want to steal someone, you should respect the order of things." I saw Johnny White first. "Do you think you're worthy of competing with me?" Ethan just smiled, saying nothing. He glanced over at old Mr. Herbert. Adrien's words had already drained the color from the old man's face. He raised his cane and struck Adrien hard on the knee. "You brat. Apologize to Mr. Booth right now. I've spoiled you too much, letting you say such outrageous things." Adrien looked at his grandfather in disbelief. Seeing the sheer terror on his grandfather's face, he finally realized something was very wrong, but he still looked defiant. Hiding the resentment in his eyes, Adrien lowered his head and apologized. "Mr. Booth, I'm sorry." Ethan took my hand. "You shouldn't be apologizing to me. You should be apologizing to my partner." Adrien shot me a venomous glare, his anger barely contained. He forced out another reluctant "I'm sorry." I snorted and turned my head, refusing to look at him. For the rest of the party, Adrien didn't dare bother me again. He just watched me from a distance. Even after the party ended, I was still buzzing from the thrill of it all. After we left the Herberts, Ethan didn't go back to LA. He stayed and spent a long time with me in Boston. I liked playing golf, so Ethan would spend the entire day with me at the golf course. Unfortunately, Adrien showed up too, but it wasn't my golf course. I couldn't stop him from coming. Ethan was also an excellent golfer. His tall frame hugged me from behind, his breath warm on my ear. The atmosphere was electric. It wasn't until I felt something hard pressing against my lower back that I shyly pushed him away. Ethan's eyes devoured me. He planted a kiss on my lips before hurrying off to the restroom. Adrien watched us from a distance, the jealousy in his eyes impossible to hide. He had been so sure he'd get Johnny, but someone had come out of nowhere and ruined his plans. Once Ethan was gone, Adrien walked over. The blush on my face hadn't even faded yet. Adrien stood right in front of me. His stare startled me. Before I could ask what he wanted, he spoke. "Johnny, can he make you feel better than I can? Why did you choose him instead of me?" As he spoke, Adrien grabbed my arm. I struggled with all my might, but his grip was like a vice. Seeing me struggle only made Adrien more furious. He started dragging me towards a dark storeroom. When he wasn't paying attention, I bit down hard on his arm. Adrien cried out in pain and let go. I used that moment to run toward where Ethan was, but Adrien was right behind me, chasing me relentlessly. He only stopped and walked away when he saw Ethan. Seeing Ethan was like seeing my lifeline. I gasped for air, too shaken to even cry. Ethan chuckled. "I was only gone for a minute. Did you miss me that much?" I shook my head and told him what Adrien had just done. Ethan's expression turned ugly, and a cold, murderous glint flashed in his eyes. "Sweetheart, are you hurt?" "No, I'm smart." I ran fast. I was still scared, but also a little proud of myself. Catching me wasn't going to be that easy. After that incident, Ethan became my shadow. Except for when I was in the bathroom or showering, we were practically glued together. If I used to complain that he spent too much time at work and not enough with me, now I felt like Ethan was a little too clingy. He even dragged me into his study when he had meetings, but I couldn't understand any of his technical jargon. Ethan saw the pathetic look on my face. "Fine, but you can only stay in the living room." Hearing him relent, I nodded eagerly, grabbed a huge pile of snacks, and headed downstairs. But as soon as I got to the bottom of the stairs, I saw someone I didn't want to see. I shot a questioning look at the butler. He just smiled. "This young lady said she was your sister, so I let her in." I sighed deeply and asked the butler to prepare some tea and snacks. Melissa looked at me with a fawning expression. It was so different from her aggressive demeanor the other day. Honestly, it made me very uncomfortable. "What do you want?" Melissa was taken aback, and her eyes instantly turned red. "Johnny, you won't even call me sister anymore?" I looked down. It wasn't that I didn't want to call her my sister, but my sister was always forcing me to do things I didn't want to do. Seeing my silence, Melissa wasn't angry. She gently dabbed the tears from her eyes. "Johnny, this is the jade pendant our mother left for us. She said we'd each get one. I was going to give it to you when you turned 18, but then you went abroad." Seeing that jade pendant, my face instantly darkened. Melissa didn't understand why. She thought that by bringing out our mother's keepsake, I would forgive her for what she'd done and ask Ethan to help Brad's family. But what Melissa didn't know was that I already had my pendant, and the one in her hand was clearly not the one our mother had left for us. When she married Brad, his family was already in decline, just a hollow shell of its former self. The money from selling our mother's assets and the stocks I gave her could have lasted them a long time. But who could have guessed that Brad was a gambling addict? No amount of money would be enough for him to burn through. I pushed away the hand holding the pendant. "You should go, Melissa. This is the last time I'll ever call you my sister." Melissa's hand trembled. When she chose to sell out her brother, she must have known this day would come. She just didn't expect it to come so soon, or that her brother would be so ruthless. 3 days after Melissa left, I suddenly received a text from her. "Johnny, I still have some of Mom's old photos and videos. If you want them, come and get them. Consider it the last thing I can do for you as your sister." I frowned. I didn't have many pictures of my mother. Most of them were either with Melissa or at the White family home. Either way, I couldn't get to them. But Ethan wouldn't let me go out alone. And he had been getting busier and busier lately, spending most of his time cooped up in his study. I thought about it for a moment. I left a note on the table and confirmed the meeting place with Melissa. When I got there, Melissa was already waiting. I didn't want to waste any time. If Ethan found out I was gone, he would worry. "Where are they?" Melissa's hand trembled slightly. She lifted her coffee cup and took a delicate sip. "Sit down first. I ordered your favorite, a cappuccino." I glanced at her, then picked up the cappuccino on the table and downed it in one gulp. "Can you give them to me now?" Melissa looked at me and suddenly spoke. "Johnny, sometimes I really hate you. Why are you always so lucky? Mom had 40% of the company's shares, but she gave 25% to you. Even the men you meet are better than mine." I frowned. Our mother had left me a lot of shares, but all the jewelry and collectibles went to her. I was about to argue when my head suddenly felt dizzy. I looked at the coffee cup I had just drunk from. The coffee, was drugged. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was Adrien walking towards me with a smile. I think he was saying something, but I couldn't hear him. When I woke up from my stupor, there was a chain around my neck. Adrien was sitting nearby, watching me quietly. He scared me. "What are you doing?" Adrien poured a glass of water and handed it to me. "You've been asleep for a long time. Have some water." I watched him warily. In that one instant, it all made sense. Melissa asking me out was just a ploy. It was also Adrien could kidnap me and hold me here. Melissa was probably hoping Adrien would prop up Brad's family. But she never stopped to think that the family was rotten to the core. It was just an empty shell. How could it possibly be saved? But what did Adrien want? What do you want? Money? Shares? Let me go, and Ethan will give you anything. Hearing me mention Ethan's name, Adrien's face darkened instantly. Johnny, don't talk about him. Didn't you love me the most? Why are you talking about him? Adrien's state was not right. I didn't want to provoke him, but I didn't want to humor him either. I just ignored him. Sooner or later, Ethan would find me and get me out of here. For the next 3 days, Adrien would come and spend an hour just sitting there watching me in silence. I ignored him. If he wanted to stare, he could stare. It's not like I'd lose a piece of flesh. But after the 4th day, Adrien stopped coming as often. It seemed like he was tied up with something urgent. On the 6th day, Adrien came back, a gentle smile on his face. But I could see how exhausted he was. His eyes were shot with red, making the whites look like something out of a nightmare. Like a demon crawling out of hell. I was so scared I took a step back. Adrien grinned. He opened his arms and hugged me. Johnny, I'm not letting you go. I'll never let you go. You wait. I'm gonna kill that man, Booth. Then you'll be mine forever. After saying that, Adrien turned and left, locking the door tightly behind him. But he forgot to lock the chain around my neck. From the window, I watched Adrien's car drive away. Then I climbed out. The window was too high. When I landed, I twisted my leg. I didn't dare cry out, afraid of attracting attention. The pain from the fracture made me break out in a cold sweat. If I could see myself in a mirror, I would have seen how pale my face was. I circled the Herbert estate and finally found a doggy door. By the time I made it back to the place I was staying with Ethan, the sky was already turning light. When I opened the door, I saw a lot of police officers gathered at the entrance. I froze. Was I too late? The thought of Adrien killing Ethan sent a pain through my heart that was worse than my leg. If it weren't for me, Ethan wouldn't have died. I shouldn't have gotten involved with Ethan in the first place. I berated myself, filled with so much anguish that I wanted to die right then and there to be with him. Sweetheart? A familiar voice called out from in front of me. I looked up. It was Ethan. He was alive. Ethan was not dead. Ethan, you. I was crying too hard to speak clearly. Ethan was even more emotional than I was. He was actually crying. He hugged me tightly, as if trying to merge me into his body. Ethan didn't know how he had survived the past few days. Since Johnny disappeared, he felt like his whole life had lost its meaning. In just 1 week, he had lost so much weight that even the chest muscles Johnny loved had shrunk. Sweetheart, don't leave me. Please. Ethan was afraid he was dreaming. He slapped himself across the face several times. His actions startled Johnny. Crying, he tried to stop him. Ethan, you, don't hit yourself. Only when he was sure it wasn't a dream did Ethan finally believe that his Johnny had really come back. After that day, Ethan's watch over me became even tighter. Before, I could occasionally sneak out for some fresh air while he was in a meeting. Now, I was under strict lockdown. Johnny lay next to Ethan, eating chips, when he suddenly thought of Adrien. There had been no news of Adrien at all. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Even the police couldn't find him. Johnny turned and asked, Ethan, do you know where Adrien is? Ethan looked down, his eyes cold. I don't know. Is my sweetheart so bored today that you're thinking about irrelevant things? With that, Ethan slowly loosened his tie and started walking towards me. I realized I was in trouble, giggled nervously, and tried to run. Epilogue. I am Adrien Herbert. From the moment I saw Johnny White, I knew he was mine. Johnny was so pure. I just had to whisper a few sweet nothings and he agreed to be with me. But after we got together, Johnny was too clingy. And he always wanted to make our relationship public. But I was the great heir of the Herbert family. How could I publicly date a man? Being with Johnny White was just for fun. After I rejected him enough times, Johnny got the hint and stopped mentioning it. But to appease him, I took him to meet my friends. My friends are very good at reading my moods. Before I brought Johnny to see them, I acted like I didn't care about him. Sure enough, when Johnny arrived, they started mocking him and playing tricks on him. Seeing Johnny's embarrassed face, I actually felt a little uncomfortable. But at the time, I didn't think anything of it. The only reason I was with Johnny was because he reminded me of the little girl who saved me back then. Actually, at first, I suspected that the person who saved me was Johnny. But the investigation came back saying the person who saved me was Isabel Cecil, from the Cecil family. I got in touch with her and proposed an engagement on behalf of the Cecil family. The Herbert family is one of the top families in Boston. Without any hesitation, the Cecil family agreed to the marriage. But somehow Johnny found out about it. That night when I got home, the house wasn't filled with my favorite dishes like usual. That's right, Johnny was gone. He didn't leave anything behind. At first, I thought he was just sulking. But slowly, I realized something was wrong. Johnny was really gone. I sent people to LA to find him. But only the first person gave me a general location. After that, all the private investigators clammed up, even willing to pay 3 times the breach of contract fee. Later, I found out Ethan Booth had already gotten his hands on my treasure. When Johnny came back to the country, I thought Ethan had dumped him. So I extended an olive branch. I thought Johnny would agree no matter what. But after a few years, Johnny had grown a temper. He wasn't gentle anymore. I thought I would have time to slowly train him, to turn him back into the person he used to be. But Johnny didn't want to come back to me. I couldn't accept that. A friend gave me an idea. He told me to pressure Johnny's sister. I never thought that would be the last straw. Johnny was never coming back. And then Ethan Booth showed up. It turned out Johnny had never broken up with him. They had just had a fight. When my grandfather's cane hit my leg, I understood the gap between me and Ethan Booth. I decided to give up on Johnny. But then Isabel suddenly told me that she had never saved anyone. That's when I realized I might have had the wrong person from the very beginning. I wanted to find Johnny, to tell him that I loved him from the start. I called off the wedding. My family locked me up for a long time. Finally, by refusing to eat or drink for 3 days, I earned the chance to go to Johnny's wedding. Johnny used to love me so much. As long as I was sincere in my apology, Johnny would definitely come back to me.
Bonus chapter.
Melissa. Actually, when I got engaged to Brad, I already knew the Lee family was finished. But Brad was my first love, the one that got away. No matter what, I could never give up on him. But I didn't have much money. I couldn't help Brad support his family. So I told Johnny that Adrien had a fiancée. Johnny had grown up witnessing our father's affairs. When it came to relationships, he couldn't tolerate even a speck of dust in his eye. Sure enough, the next day, Johnny said he was going abroad and transferred his shares to me. I thought that with those shares, Brad and I could live a good life. But I miscalculated. The Lee family's debt was not something that little bit of money could fix. So I went to Adrien. I proposed that I could trick Johnny into coming back, but he had to invest in the Lee Corporation. Adrien agreed. On my wedding day, I successfully arranged for Adrien and Johnny to meet. But the next day, Adrien told me that Johnny was not willing to be his secret lover at all. And correspondingly, he was not willing to invest. So I went to persuade Johnny. I thought that for the sake of family, he would go. Maybe it was because he'd been abroad for so many years that I didn't understand him anymore. He actually didn't agree to Adrien's offer. So I sent him angry texts. He had been with Adrien before, hadn't he? Why was he so unwilling now? He had nothing to lose by being with Adrien. I thought I would have to persuade Johnny again. What I didn't expect was that my brother was so capable. No wonder he looked down on Adrien. It turned out he had latched onto the eldest son of the Booth family. With the Booth family's help, it would only be a matter of time before the Lee Corporation got back on its feet. Later, I tried to find Johnny a few times, but he refused to see me. I thought maybe I had hurt him too deeply. There was nothing I could do but try more often. Sooner or later, I'd get to see him, but he was so ungrateful. I even brought up our mother, and he still refused. I could have slowly softened Johnny's attitude, but the Lee Corporation couldn't wait. Brad urgently needed a capital injection. That's when Adrien found me again. He just told me to ask Johnny out, and that would be enough. But I didn't expect him to drug the coffee. Adrien took Johnny away right in front of me. I wanted to stop him, but then I thought of Brad's defeated look. He needed this money. Adrien wouldn't do anything to Johnny. He wouldn't. After that, I lived in fear every day, terrified that Johnny would end up on the news. After getting the money, Brad and I discussed leaving Boston. If Ethan Booth found out that I had conspired with Adrien to trick Johnny, he would never let me go. But when Brad heard what I said, his face changed. He shoved me to the ground. You dared to provoke the Booth family? I'm telling you, from today on, you have nothing to do with our family. Get out now. I looked at him in disbelief. Brad didn't give me another chance to speak. He had people throw me out of the house. Later, I heard from others that Ethan Booth had found Johnny. My life is miserable now. Johnny is my brother, after all. If I beg him, he will surely soften. I just want to go back to Brad's side. But when I went back to that place, the person I saw was Ethan Booth. He seemed to know why I was there. He just told me to go back and wait, that the Lee family would send for me. Sure enough, the next day, the Lee family sent someone to bring me back. But the person I saw was not the normal Brad. He had been in a car accident. The car had hit him so hard he was paralyzed. He would have to spend the rest of his life in bed. Brad drooled and pointed at me. I was afraid he would fall, so I opened the door to leave. But the Lee family had locked the door from the outside when they left. Watching the man who had fallen out of bed, slowly dragging his broken body towards me, I knew I would probably never escape this cage.